Welcome, everyone, to the third episode of It's Time to Get Real with Real World Wildlife Products. I have Don Higgins, our president, and Wes Ducks, our general manager. And this is a real informal episode of this where we're talking about deer nutrition. Don recently did a presentation up at Scott Finnendall's in a place up in Wisconsin about deer nutrition as it related to different plant types, the all of the nutrients we can give to an animal, but a key component of this is going to be supplemental feeding and mineral products that we want to talk about tonight. So, Don, I guess let's just start out with just an overview of how herd health is so important to managing your wildlife, what animals are going through right now post rut, the does are pregnant, what is all from a physiological standpoint, what's going on with the deer herd, and try to express some urgency, and we have to get product like this out now if we can.
Well, I think most land managers, the reason they invest in land, the reason they invest in food plots and everything that goes along with land management is they're trying to grow bigger deer. And a healthier deer has a chance to express his genetic potential better than one that's struggling with health issues. And one of the best things that we can do as a land manager is to meet the nutritional needs of our deer herd. And this is the time of the year when quality food sources are in their shortest supply and when deer are stressed the most nutritionally. So this is the time of the year when, as a land manager, it really separates those who are just looking to kill deer versus those who are really looking to manage deer, because the guys that are taking care of their deer herds right now are not going to go out there and shoot deer over a bait pile or a mineral pile or whatever. They're actually um, participating or taking part in a year-round management program, and this is a time of the year when the deer need us the most.
Yeah, so they've come off a time of the year. Wes, you've been walking a lot of properties, and I don't know if you've jumped up any deer or seen any out in the field. A lot of them have lost weight, and there's not a lot of food sources on many of these farms that you're out walking, is there?
No, there's not.
So, if you haven't done it already, we like to even do it earlier than what it is right now. But if you haven't done it already, now is the time to address a quality food source with mineral or supplemental feeding. So let's start off, Don, with just the Maximizer mineral product. I guess with your background in captive research with your deer herd, talk a little bit about the beginnings of Maximizer and why this product is different than most things on the market.
Well, the idea for a deer mineral actually started, way back when I had the captive deer. I had I had realized that nutrition played a critical role in the size of the bucks that one could grow, and I knew mineral was a key component of that nutritional program. So I actually started with my research in with the captive deer. I secured 7 sets of twin buck fawns one year, and I separated those into 2 separate pens side by side, 7 bucks in each pen. Each buck had a twin brother in the other pen, and each pen got the exact same feed, except one pen I top dressed their feed each day with a mineral that I had, developed or put together the recipe for. Um, to see if what difference it made. Well, then at the end of the antler growing season, we would always tranquilize those captive bucks to remove their antlers, and when we did so, we would score using the Boone and Crockett scoring system. We would come up with a gross antler score for each of those deer, and we would total up the total number of inches of antler in one pen versus the other. And through that experiment, and I'll be the first to admit, 7 deer in each pen is far from a scientific study, but I seen enough to believe that I could add inches to deer through mineral. Now, how many is going to be dependent on a lot of factors, and probably the biggest factor of all is the soil in a particular region. You get a lot of these regions in the Midwest where there's really rich, fertile soils, and the plants that are grown there take up those nutrients or those minerals, whatever. Um, and you compare that to a region, say, like in Arkansas or Southwest Missouri, where it's real rocky and not much topsoil, a mineral program in that region is going to have a much bigger impact than one in a region with more fertile soils. So, that's kind of where the thing started with Maximizer. And then we took it to the next level when I realized that you definitely can add inches with mineral. I took my formula and met with a couple of livestock nutritionists who had also worked on a deer mineral and were actually marketing a deer mineral at that time. And we compared formulas, and my formula was very, very similar to what they had been marketing. We tweaked formulas a little bit. There's certain nutrients or minerals that need to be in specific ratios with each other. One example that a lot of folks know about is calcium and phosphorus needs to be in a 2-to-1 ratio. So, in other words, there needs to be twice as much calcium as there's phosphorus. And there's some others as well, but
Magnesium to zinc,
it's zinc to copper, but
zinc to copper. Yeah.
yeah, you was close. But anyway, those specific levels.
Right.
Wes adding value where he can.
It's more than just a specific level of each nutrient. Some of those key nutrients need to be, in specific ratios with each other. And we've come up with the maximizer. It's got 20 different nutrients in it. There's probably not another mineral product out there marketed to deer hunters that has that many different key nutrients in it. But the real key is not the number, but how they work in conjunction with each other, and the fact that they're specifically formulated in proper ratios with each other.
Yeah, and boy, we're gonna probably ruffle a lot of feathers, with this, but we're here just to present facts. You decide what you want, but I think that a company, especially these pop-up mineral guys that are doing it in their garage, mixing it in a cement mixer or whatever, throwing different concoctions and saying, "Oh, we need selenium and we need magnesium." There's just not an understanding of that ratio of micronutrients and how they work together for overall herd health. So I personally, you told me a long time ago, I've always remembered this, that you got to really beware of the people that don't post their analysis. We talk about seed tags all the time with Wes Delks. You came from a seed testing lab background before you came to real world. Nutrition products are just the same. The facts on that tag is what's really going to tell you what it is.
Yeah, for sure, Terry. And just recently, someone had asked me about a particular mineral product from another company, and I didn't have any idea if to tell them if it was good or not. So I went to that company's website to get an analysis to advise them. It was actually a consulting client, and I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but there was no analysis on the website. And
Right.
these guys that are promoting home brews, they call them, of their mineral mixes or whatever. You can get deer to eat about anything. You throw enough salt at it in your mix, and deer are going to eat it. They'll eat straight salt. They'll eat something that's 50% salt, 40% salt, whatever. You mix salt with just about anything, and you can get deer to eat it. And if your goal is just to get deer in front of a camera to get pictures of them, why, just about any product out there, it will work fine. But when you're really trying to address herd health, there is not many products marketed to deer hunters that are actually going to help, no matter what it says on the package. I know there's products out there that right there on the package it says guaranteed to grow bigger bucks, and yet when you look at the ingredients in that package, there's absolutely no way it possibly can. They just lack the key nutrients that are needed.
Well, this comments will know if it makes the final cut, and you don't tell me to edit it out. That
Okay.
that my question, but a lot of product out there that's marketed as mineral and not an attractant has a large percentage of a product called sodium chloride in it. And when you Google sodium chloride, it's a component that basically, I think the Google definition is it tastes like salt. And I think it's a way, number one, to keep the cost down on the product that they're manufacturing, because salt or sodium chloride is very cheap. But it's a way to kind of deceive the consumer a little bit, thinking, oh, well, sodium chloride, that's a fancy name. I bet that does something good for an animal. But it's really hiding that it's probably a 60% or even higher salt-based product.
Yeah, salt is the cheapest ingredient in any product, whether it be ours or another company's. It's the cheapest ingredient in all of them, but it's also the one that the deer like the most. I mean, they're going to eat it. It's like sugar.
Yeah.
You know, and if you've got a good mineral product, a lot of times the deer are not going to eat as much of it. If you would think of that mineral, a good mineral, as a vitamin. I mean, if you're taking a daily vitamin, that vitamin is a really small capsule, and yet it's got every nutrient that you need. It's got the vitamin A, the vitamin D, the vitamin C. It's got at the level that you need for that entire day. It's a real small portion. So a good mineral product is usually not consumed in the same volume as a cheap salt mix, because the deer just crave the salt. And to be honest, I kind of compare it to, if you had a bunch of kids and you took a bowl of candy and set it out on the table, and right next to it you had a bowl of vegetables, green beans, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, whatever. Which one of those bowls do you think the kids are going to empty first? Well, they're going to empty the candy.
Well, that's a great point. I think that some people have kind of realized that, especially even this time of the year, the high salt-based products really aren't doing anything. We really don't need inventory too much this year, other than to know if the antlers are still on. But they use a high salt product, and then they dump maximizer in there, and all of a sudden they're a little disappointed because the deer aren't eating it. When you do a cold turkey swap with a high salt content versus a quality mineral, it's usually a good idea to kind of transition that a little bit in your mineral site versus just, okay, today I'm not pouring salt, today I'm pouring mineral. Yeah, they're going to turn their nose up a little bit out of it because you just took an ice cream cone out of a kid's hand and handed him a Brussels sprout.
Right. So when a customer is going to switch to maximizer, and they've been using a high salt product, or a flavored salt product, my advice is that you start out with a 50-50 mix. You take and mix 50% of what you have been using and 50% maximizer, and you use that for a while, and then you go to a 75-25, 75% maximizer, 25% of the previous product, before going 100% to the maximizer. And you switch those deer over gradually, and even when you get to the full maximizer, they're not going to be consuming as much as they were the high salt product.
It's almost like Wes being a picky eater, and his wife, kind of hiding something in his vegetables to make him eat it.
Out of the three of us, I'm not the picky eater.
Who would that be?
All right. Well, I think it's important for people to understand, just because you see these holes the size of a bathtub, that doesn't necessarily mean anything other than a deer is there eating a lot. Whether they're eating the right thing to help them with herd health, that's a different story. So just keep that into consideration. I think it's a great piece of dialogue. I will note that if you go to the Real World website, we do have not only an analysis of our product. The analysis was done a few years ago, but it gives you a perspective of all those 20 micronutrients that are 20 nutrients, including the micronutrients that are in our product, that I don't know of anybody else that even comes close to having that many items on their list. So On the mineral page on our website, there's a spreadsheet that has all of many of the other competitor products. So you got anything to add there, Wesley?
No, I know this is kind of off topic, but because we're talking about nutrition, but as we're talking about this, my mind goes to NutriCrave corn. And I raised captive deer myself for 7 years, and I always looked at how much feed I was putting in feeders, and okay, there's 12 deer eating in this pen. They're eating 3.5 pounds a day or whatever. And this time of year, we get the idea it's after rut, they're bulking up, their feed intake is going up, but their feed intake isn't going up so much. The thing behind NutriCrave corn is a deer is going to be eating in that 3 to 5 pounds of food a day. We want to nutritionally provide as good a food as we can, and that's what we did with NutriCrave. That's what we do with our mineral, with our complete feed, is provide the best quality feed that we can.
So you're saying you're not going to force Wes Delks to eat a 64-ounce steak just because he got out of land consulting season and he's been walking these hills in Kentucky and Ohio. He's still going to eat a 16-ounce ribeye, but not a 64-ounce whole shoulder. But what nutrients is in that steak is what's important on how they bounce back.
That's right. But my client and his father bought me a steak dinner tonight. I think I ate twice as much as they did combined. So,
what about you, Don? You got anything else on the mineral?
No, I think Wes brings up a fantastic point. You know, a deer is going to consume, let's say, 4 pounds of feed this time of year. That's going to include natural browse as well as what he gets out of a plot. So if he's consuming, say, 1 pound of corn, he's going to get in the NutriCrave corn, he's going to get 1.5 times the amount of protein as he would in another corn, and he's going to get 3 times as much fat. So, a nutrient-rich diet is to that deer's benefit.
And I don't think Wes's comment was off topic because we talk about food plot diversity or supplemental feeding diversity. When we had Dr. Strickland on the podcast that one time, he said that they noticed these deer were eating. They had all this lush food plot around, and these deer were eating these, what do you say, these little wooded stems on a bush. They couldn't figure out why. There's lush green fields beside them. So they did an analysis on that, and it ended up being something lacking in their diet. Mm-hmm. So if your property has basically everything that we can throw, the whole kitchen sink, a big diversity of food plots, supplemental feeding, a true mineral, that deer's not going to go look for what's lacking in his diet and try to find that. We're offering everything that he needs right there on your property.
Well, and also the limiting factor on a deer reaching his genetic potential is the nutrient in shortest supply, the weakest link in the chain, in the nutrient chain, if you will. So these other products that are lacking the number of nutrients that Maximizer has, what if one of those nutrients that's lacking is the weakest link in that chain? That's going to be what limits that deer's genetic potential. Sure. And I'll also throw out for the listeners or viewers that if you go to the Real World website and go to the Maximizer mineral page, you can look and see what each one of these nutrients does for the deer. Why that deer needs that particular nutrient.
Yeah, that was on the website, and we also included that in the land management guide this year. So check that out. It actually explains what each one does. For instance, sulfur, correct me if I'm wrong, that's almost like an insect repellent in some cases. Mosquitoes don't like the sulfur in the blood or something. Did I get that right?
Uh-huh.
Am I 2 for 2 not having to edit out stuff that I don't know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to save you some work, Terry. I'm just agreeing with you. Yep. You're right.
Well, I'm sure someone in the comments below will be happy to correct us if we say something wrong. So let's transition to our complete feed product. This product's been near and dear to my heart. I think I was pretty much the test site for this before we brought it out to market. For the first couple years, we were just trying to compare it to everything out there from an attraction standpoint, because guys like Dr. Clifford Shipley was kind of teaching us what we needed from a nutritional standpoint with balance of fat and and protein, but we were trying to use it in all different circumstances. So what's, obviously when somebody's buying feed in a bag, the first thing they're looking at is the price on the shelf that it's setting on. But you have to understand, and maybe even the NutriCrave corn is a good, another good example on this. Um, you're buying something for a little bit more money, but you're packing in more nutrients, protein, and fat into that investment that you're not getting with a cheaper bag.
Well, here's what folks need to remember when they're looking at a feed. The feed industry is very the profit margins in the, let's just say, deer feed are very slim. They're really tight. You take an ingredient like corn. Corn is pretty much the base in about any deer feed product, no matter whose name's on the label. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Every manufacturer is paying essentially the same price for that corn. It's when you get into the proteins, for example, protein is expensive. When you want to jack that protein level up in your feed, it's going to cost you. You're going to pay for it. And each company is going to pay basically the same. A lot of companies cut corners, but they use byproducts, that are grain byproducts that are, the leftover products from um, other manufacturing processes, if you will. Um, for example, bean hulls. You can buy soybean hulls that are the byproduct from soybean meal or extruded soybeans, and those will cheapen your mix to some degree. But when it comes to the feed industry, you pretty much get what you pay for, um, because all the different manufacturers are paying the same prices for what they're putting in their bag. I look at some companies and I don't even know how they're doing it, because I know what the input costs are for these different ingredients, and it just tells me that they've really cheapened it up. There's no way it can be. And then when you throw in the factor that they're also paying celebrities to endorse this, and I'm talking major amounts of money to endorse their product, and they're selling it so cheap, that just tells you that now we know why they don't put the analysis on their website. I mean, who would?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit specifically about Maximizer Complete Feed. And Wes, feel free to jump in at any time there, buddy. Don will correct you. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, um, so this product is known for high protein and fat, but also let's talk a little bit about the mineral nutrients that we put inside of it, and what that does to kick it up a notch, just not being fat and protein.
Well, the secret, if you will, the secret sauce to the Maximizer Complete Feed is really that pellet that's in the feed. That pellet is really our Maximizer Concentrate feed pellet, which you could buy just the pellet if you wanted to, and it's used at a rate of 200 pounds per ton of complete feed. The other ingredients are basically your grains, but that pellet has every nutrient that a deer would need. It's got every nutrient that's in our mineral plus a few more. So, any vitamin, any micronutrient that a deer needs is in that pellet. And when used at the proper rate, which again is 200 pounds per ton, that deer is not going to be lacking anything. If he lived on nothing but that complete feed, he would get everything he needs.
Yep.
Right now, I think that we see a lot of people that they start out on our complete feed and they might be if they're using a ton of complete feed for their postseason inventory, then yeah, they're just going to use that complete feed product. But on larger ranches or people that are going through 3 4 going through more feed, yeah, those people, we want to wean them off of the complete feed product and go to the concentrate product. And those people are working with their local feed mill. They're calling Real World's off it. Right now, we can't keep complete feed on the shelf. We're shipping it out the door as quickly as we can make it. So we're getting a lot of calls right now and emails about concentrate, people that want to feed on that next level that are going through 3-4 tons of complete feed at a time. Hey, let's move you to our concentrate product. Work with your local feed mill. Let's get roasted soybeans, corn, some other products in there, mixed with 200 pounds of concentrate, and have a complete feed ration that can be a lot more cost effective for shipping as well.
Yeah, that's a great segue into our concentrate product, because let's face it, UPS costs are just atrocious right now. Um, so if I can ship 200 pounds from real world to my house, take that to my local feed mill, and produce 1 ton, 2,000 pounds of product, um, that saves me hundreds of dollars versus shipping a whole skid of product, because I'm not shipping that commodity grain wherever I need to go.
I'll throw in something else, Terry, that something that we've done a lot is we've shipped pallets of the concentrate. So a 1 ton pallet of concentrate will actually make 10 tons of complete feed, and we will drop ship that right to the customer's feed mill. So the customer doesn't even handle that pallet, but it's shipped to their mill, and their mill will use those pellets as the customer requests. And, you know, they will have a feed that's got everything it needs in it.
Yep. So I'm gonna work a little bit off the outline here, just because there's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna get, oh, I can save money by doing this myself. I got a 5-gallon bucket or a big feed pail or maybe a cement mixer in my garage. I'm just gonna buy a bag of concentrate and start doing it myself. One of the things that I think um, is a big misconception about corn is the difference between shell corn and cracked or rolled corn. Do you want to take just a minute for the people that want to experiment with mixing their own corn and talk about the digestibility of corn versus shell versus cracked or rolled?
You want this one, Wes? You want me to have it?
All you.
Okay, well, a whole kernel corn is a little bit tougher for a deer to totally digest. I'm not a big fan of cracked corn because there's so many fines that get lost, or they promote mold or whatever. I like a rolled corn where that kernel is basically almost crushed. It's still, the kernel is together, but it's been crushed and cracked and flattened, and when it goes through the deer's digestive system, it just breaks down a whole lot easier than a whole kernel.
So a whole corn. If you spend much time on a farm and walk out into the pasture after they fed whole corn to a cow, you can see where the whole kernel of corn ends up instead of being digested. Um, Whereas that rolled corn, basically the it's already opened up and allows for that gut to digest it and break it down a whole lot easier. The other thing I think that people need to realize when they take these pellets and they mix them possibly at home is you can overmix that to the point that it breaks down the pellet, and that's not good either if you're mixing it so much that the pellet breaks down into powder.
Right.
There's another thing I'll throw out there about using the pellets, and Terry, you can speak to this better than either of us since you're fed a lot more being from Kentucky. But when you put a pellet in feed, a lot of people that are feeding are just doing it on the ground. And when you put a pellet on the ground, it gets water on it. It's going to swell up. It's going to get mushy. If you're feeding a complete feed ration with a pellet in it, it's a lot better fed out of a feeder. Um,
Absolutely. There's two levels to that. The more you break down that pellet, the more chance it has. At least when it's a hard pellet, imagine like rabbit food or maybe like a wood pellet fireplace. But some people know what those look like. It almost is compressed and has a hard shell on it. So there is a little bit almost of a barrier there, because whatever they use as the binding agent to help hold that together will help it. But if you break that down into powder, when you're mixing it, it's going to promote that even more. For the southern states, especially where in the summer, where you have a lot of humidity inside of that feeder, that powder can start to goo up a little bit too. So having it in a feeder, keeping that pellet in a pellet form up off the ground dry, is vital to this stuff not kind of gooing up and getting stagnant and stinky.
Well, I agree with what Wes said about the feeder. If we can't feed in our home state of Illinois, which is why you've tested the most of any of us here, Terry. But I've owned property in Ohio and just recently purchased another Ohio property where supplemental feeding is allowed. In fact, baiting is allowed. And on the properties that I've owned and managed in Ohio, I feed, but I have that feed in a feeder.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's always better to keep that up off the ground. So 200 pounds of concentrate per ton, whether you're mixing it yourself or we drop ship it straight to your mill. We can even get on the phone with your mill and talk about what to mix with it. There's some other things that we do that we can talk specifics to those who are interested in that. I guess let's transition a little bit. We've talked about mineral, we've talked about complete feed, but there's a product inside of both of those products that kind of take herd health to another level. And we've had this product called Expect Healthy Deer technology for quite a few years now. I guess just introduce that for the people who aren't familiar with it and tell us what that additive is about.
Well, the Expect Healthy Deer technology was developed by a couple of livestock nutritionists who are also deer hunters. In 2012, after the EHD outbreak, these guys were in their tree stands. They were seeing hardly any deer, and they got to thinking, how can I leverage my knowledge of nutrition to maybe combat EHD, or epizootic hemorrhagic disease? And they came up with a product which was a blend of all natural ingredients from around the world, and they tested it on some captive deer and proved that to some degree in their test it did save deer from dying from EHD. Later, we were put in contact with these folks through a mutual customer of ours. One of our customers actually um, was familiar with these folks and made the introduction. We met with them, and after a series of meetings and such, we secured the marketing rights to this Expect Healthy Deer technology. However, we told them that we did not want to market it until we had some further proof of the claims that were being made. We commissioned a study at the University of Minnesota where one of the leading virologists in the world, Dr. Sanger Goyle, took this Expect Healthy Deer technology and introduced it to the live EHD virus in the lab in petri dishes, and concluded that it indeed did kill the EHD virus. In fact, his study was published in the Oxford Journal of Animal Science magazine. And you can do a search on the internet, just type in Expect Healthy Deer Technology, Oxford Animal Science, and you will be able to see the details of this study. Well, in the years since, we've learned a lot more about the Expect Healthy Deer technology and just how efficient it is at addressing the EHD virus. And I'm going to be the first to tell you it's absolutely not 100% effective. And there's a lot of challenges, a lot of variables. One of the challenge with a wild deer herd is just getting them to consume it on a regular basis. And so we absolutely are not making the claim that it's 100% effective against EHD, although I personally believe that it absolutely is effective to some degree. That degree is obviously going to vary with conditions. But really, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because this product is a whole lot more than that. It offers a lot of other health benefits, and one of those other benefits is, besides health issues, is increased antler growth. It increases blood flow. And what's a growing antler? A growing antler is basically a series of blood vessels carrying nutrients out to that growing antler. And this product will increase antler growth through that increased blood flow. It also helps mitigate heat stress. There's other products marketed by some of the major feed companies in the livestock industry that have similar products that help animals deal with heat stress.
Right.
And we have that in there too. I think it was in 2018. That's just 17 or 18. I can't remember which one for sure, but we improved the Expect Healthy Deer technology by adding a probiotic to the mix. And this probiotic was specifically cultured for white-tailed deer. There is actually 6 different bacteria in our probiotic, good bacteria, that will help combat bad bacterial issues in deer. We actually have just improved it again. I guess that is where we're going with this. Is we came across some very, very, very interesting research that was done in Michigan, I believe. And actually, it was done by captive deer breeders. But we found the video that detailed this research that they had done, showing that humic acid appeared to be having a significant impact on CWD, or chronic wasting disease, with captive deer. And it's to the point today where most captive deer breeders are using humic acid in their deer feeds. And I'm guessing after we let the cat out of the bag, if you will, with this video, that there's going to be a lot of other deer feed companies jump on and start adding humic acid to their products. But for the last few months, we have had humic acid in all of our products that contain Expect Healthy Deer technology. And I think at the end of this video, you're going to show that video that I'm referring to, aren't you, Terry?
We're going to link it. We're going to link it down below. It won't be at the end, but you'll be able to click a link on it to go directly to that video.
And I strongly encourage everyone to watch this video. I mean, it's really eye-opening. And I've suspected for a while that it potentially, and I'm no CWD expert whatsoever, but potentially the solution to the CWD issue that we're seeing is nutrition. I know there was one study that I saw where you could take a soil map that showed like copper levels in the soil across the United States, and the other one was manganese levels, and those soil maps showing where those regions were, where those nutrients were deficient in the soil. You could also take a map where CWD has been found in the wild and look at those maps, and they were almost identical. So it's a lot of researchers and experts that know a whole lot more about me. I am absolutely not an expert on CWD. I want to stress that I am not an expert, but there are experts who also believe that nutrition may be the answer to combating CWD.
I'm gonna really
go ahead, Wes.
I'm gonna really oversimplify humic acid for a minute, and you guys can correct me. I'm not a scientist either, but adding humic acid to our feed, what humic acid does is, if I understand CWD correctly, it's a prion and it's a protein that misfolds. And humic acid, when you add that to your feed, when the pH level in the deer's blood goes below 6.3, when that protein misfolds, it has the ability to show symptoms of CWD. But if you can keep that pH level above 6.3 with something like humic acid, it does not show symptoms of CWD when it gets CWD. Did I say that right, Don?
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, I'm glad you threw that out there, Wes. That was absolutely perfect. Um, CWD is caused by a prion, which is a misfolded protein, and the pH level in the deer's system is critical. And like I said, I expect, and I hope they do. We don't want to hold this information back as some secret ingredient in our feed and nobody else's. If
Right.
if this research helps the whole world address chronic wasting disease, well, let's get it out there. You know what I find really interesting is this video that we're going to share is absolutely fantastic. And yet when I see it on YouTube, it's only got 600 and some views. That video ought to have 60 million views, and it's not even got 1,000. I
Well,
bet it does after this video comes out, but this
Well,
video, I'm telling you, you folks got to see it.
well, we're the only hunting nutrition company out there that will say we'll give up sales on the whole thing. We don't care about a competitive advantage. If everybody jumps on board and we keep all these politicians from putting sharpshooters in and eradicating a deer herd to fight it, so be it. Let's all get on board and use this technology and push this. So we just want to be on the leading edge of making sure people are aware of this research. It's not snake oil. Watch the video, learn as much as you can about it, and throw another tool in your toolbox to fight against it. We're not we're not putting this in our product to differentiate ourselves or justify maybe $1 more per bag expense on a product. We're doing this because we truly believe that this can make a difference if we get on board with it and possibly fight this nasty thing with nutrition.
we're the only company that's willingly increasing our input costs because we care. I mean, if you watch that video, I'm excited. I mean, it's really exciting to watch that video and know that through nutrition, there's hope other than, hey, let's just go out and send sharpshooters and take out the deer herd. There's a different solution here.
Right. And we don't want to get Don dropping Nancy Pelosi's name in the middle of this versus a Chasing Giants episode, but the further we can provide solutions that don't include political bias or other agendas to use facts to fight the problem, the better off we all are.
Well, I got a few comments to make here, Terry. First, for those who did not think the Expect Healthy Deer technology is legit, back when we first acquired the rights to it, there was a major livestock feed company that tried to get the rights as well. We had just secured them and we kept them. They wanted exclusivity. We said no, we're not going to do that. So there were some major players that were trying to get that right after we secured it.
Right.
The other thing I want to stress is that we have had this humic acid in our Expect Healthy Deer products for several months now. And we have no issue with every other company that's putting out deer feed jumping on this. Go out there and start putting humic acid in your feed. If we can make these deer healthier through supplemental feeding, it's a good thing for all deer hunters, whether they're using real world products or some other company's products. We don't care. We care about the wild deer herd. So, spread the word. If you've got a connection with another company, let them know about it.
So, Apple Creek Whitetails, Terry, this captive deer farm, they're putting humic acid not only in their feed, but they're spreading it on the ground in their pens. That's how much they believe in humic acid.
Yeah.
And another thing I'll throw out there about EHD or about our Expect Healthy Deer technology, Don, I want to throw out the success stories. There's been, you guys talked about consumption rates multiple times, and we've got a lot of captive deer farmers that use our product. We've got a good friend in Missouri that I think of that several years ago, there was an EHD outbreak in his area, and there were several deer farms within 5 miles of his location that got EHD, had a lot of fatalities but his farm only had 2. And the vast majority of his deer herd survived because they're getting that consumption rate of our Expect Healthy Deer technology.
Mhm.
So, yeah, on the wild herds, if a buck is coming to a mineral site once a week, he might not be getting enough to survive that EHD outbreak, but those feeder hogs and those ones that are sticking their nose in it every day, they got a good chance.
Well, but it sure isn't hurting them.
Right.
That's the thing. Salt's not helping. We can say that we're not hurting. I keep thinking back to, we talk about the mineral having 20 different nutrients. The mineral is in the complete feed or the concentrate. The Expect Healthy Deer technology is in the plus version of the mineral. Putting these products together in conjunction with each other is basically creating opportunities for more consumptions to work at the same time. If you can put the feed out and the mineral out, you just automatically increase the possible consumption of getting in an animal. Then we put the probiotics in with EHD. Now, what they're consuming now is getting broken down and digested much more because of gut health being so much higher, because we have, the good bacteria inside of that gut that's continuing to break down all those nutrients, absorb it versus them pass it out their rear end. So I think that all of the things kind of work a little bit more hand in hand than what most average deer hunters that want to go buy something that smells like apples and colored salt, or something that looks like a concrete block that you put out. It all works together much more intense with these different ingredients, getting consumption up and getting the animal to digest it, than what people really give it credit for.
We all know that a deer is going to consume what it needs. On my property in Indiana, I've been running feed since after season, complete feed, and I won't even start putting out mineral. I'll probably put it out here in a month or so. But I mean, we all know that they hit mineral hard in April, May, June, July when they've got velvet. So the deer are going to hit the product when they need it, and those mineral products, they'll really start hitting them hard once their velvet starts growing.
Yep. Those the other thing the feed gives you is in the states where you have to pull that mineral out or cover it. It's a whole lot nicer to just pull your feeder out than having to cover it with plywood or dig up dirt or whatever you need to do. So that's another advantage that you guys in Indiana have to, or that we have in Kentucky that you all don't have in Indiana. So I think everybody that really wants to learn, whether you decide to buy our product or not, if you really want to learn and dive into the science of whitetail, CWD is a political disease that we've talked about many times on the Chasing Giants podcast. You owe it to yourself to go watch the video in the link below and just learn. This isn't fool's gold. It's not snake oil. This is real, and people who trust their livelihood and their income are pouring this stuff on the ground to protect their investment with the livestock that they have running around. You owe it to yourself to go look at this, because I think it's going to be possibly a game changer in how we fight this thing.
Well, I agree, Terry. And it's sad that the politics are involved because you know we've seen it with COVID and other things, but with CWD, certain agencies come out and they've got a protocol that they follow once a CWD case is found, and a certain percentage of the public is just going to jump on that and buy it for all it's worth. And I just am of the mindset that I don't know because I'm not a CWD expert, but I suspect that the key to combating CWD could very well be nutrition, or a nutritional product that could be fed to deer.
So all of you competitors of ours that are watching this, trying to get a laugh, do your homework. We encourage you to follow our lead, and let's try to work together to make this deer herd across the country healthier, and inform the people making the decisions on how to deal with this on our local or our state DNRs. hopefully they can get it some resources to them too. Don's biting his lip. No Nancy Pelosi comments for you there, Don?
No, I could take this a couple different directions, but I think we just need to take the high road and encourage other companies that are putting out feed products to take a close look at this video and really consider putting humic acid into your product, because it could benefit all of us.
If we absorb the input cost to put this in our product, everybody can. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I think it's a positive thing, and it's a shame that no more people know about it than what they do. So hopefully that'll change. That's all we got for this episode. Next session, when we come back for 4, we're going to be talking about spring food plots, and preparing to get that ground worked and get products in the ground. So unless you guys have something else, we'll sign off for tonight.
I'm good. Appreciate everybody watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your hotel room there, Wesley.
Thanks, Terry.
Take care, everybody.